Hello, Carolina. How are you?
Pretty good, Andrew. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to have you here as part of the Ultimate Real Estate Investor YouTube
Well,
channel and school community and all the other things.
thank you so
Um,
much for inviting me.
of course, I'm happy to have you. I'm excited about the topic that you know way more about than I do. And that topic is rent by room, house hacking, and rent by room investing. And you and I have had several chances to talk about the topic, and I'm just intrigued by it. I've helped clients with this strategy, but so I'm still learning a lot.
Mhm.
So I think you are the resident expert who's going to teach me and our community what this is all about. So
Happy to teach you what I know.
yes, of course, of course. We're always learning each and every day and have new experiences. So that's good. Well, tell us a little bit about you personally, and then also want to jump into how you got into this and what drove you into investing in general, but investing in the rent by room strategy.
Yeah, happy to. A little bit about me. I was born in Mexico. My family moved to the States when I was a baby, so I grew up in Texas. And I went, to school there, and then I graduated from Texas A&M, and then I started my first big girl job at an oil and gas company as a product engineer. So I graduated as an industrial engineer, and then I started that. Now, an important thing to point out is that I got started late with my college education because we had some family issues that drove me to need to take care of like the family business.
Sure.
And so I always felt like I was really behind because all of my peers were graduating, all of my peers had their big boy jobs, and I was like, I'm still taking part-time classes. So when I got my first job, yeah, throughout college, I was keen on living outside of my means. I wanted to live a life that I could not afford, and I was just hoping that when I graduated, I would be able to afford that past life. So I graduated with $32,000 of debt, and I made a plan to pay that off within a year. Thankfully, I was making enough, and then I was living with my mom and paying her, some rent, and that worked well. But I had to move for work, so I got to Denver, and I knew that I was seeking financial freedom because shortly after starting my job, I I came across like some YouTube video about financial independence and FIRE, financial independence, retirement early,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I just got like obsessed with it. And then I ended up following this couple, Our Rich Journey, pretty closely, and just really studying everything that they had to offer on YouTube.
Cool.
And something that stuck out to me was how much they mentioned that housing and transportation were two of your big, it's three main things, but I remember housing and transportation are two of your biggest
Yes.
expenses.
Yes.
um, so when I moved to Denver for work, I didn't, I'm a minimalist. I love to travel. So I was like, whatever fits in my car, that's what I'm taking. So I needed to find a furnished place. I got a furnished place with roommates. It ended up being a place of like college housing. So I was living with really young girls, even though I'm like borderline 30 at this time. And I had a great time. But so basically, my home came with roommates and it came with furniture. Like those were the two things I wanted it to come with. Um, and then that year, like that was 2023, I decided that I didn't want to pay rent anymore because I would rather use that money for travel. So all of 2023, I was like, okay, I need to buy a house as an investment so that I can live rent free. That was my goal. And I wasn't even paying much. I was paying about $900 per month, a little over that. But I was like, that's almost $12,000 a year. Just quick math.
Simple math. Yeah.
Um, and I could use that on traveling. Like I would much
Nice.
rather use that on traveling.
Nice.
And now that I'm debt free, I can pay all of that money that I was paying off like my debt for towards like a down payment. Well, without it, like without an education, without knowing, like not without being informed, without knowing what I was talking about, I was like, I need $40,000 to like be able to get this home. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
okay.
I was trying to
Just say that last thing again.
I need $40,000 as a down payment to get a home. Like
Yep.
just because, I don't remember what made me think of 40, but I was like, 40 is the number. Well, October comes around and I don't even have 20. I think I had like around 15. And the couple from Our Rich Journey, they mentioned that buying between um, Halloween and New Year is the best time to buy,
Yes.
uh, because
Yes.
that's there's not all these buyers, and sellers are a little more
Preach.
desperate, etc. Right? Okay, great. So
Yeah, that's when I buy a majority of my investments. And I tell
oh,
everybody that. So you got good
that's
advice there.
yeah, they don't. I feel like I didn't hear people say that, and I would talk to realtors. So in getting this first home, I didn't know what a good realtor was. I didn't know what a good lender is. I don't know what I'm looking for. Like, how do I even interview you guys? There's like a million of you. Like what? So
You don't know what you don't know. I get it.
yeah. So I decided to take a very cold, business like approach to it, and I spoke to tons. I want to say like somewhere between 30 and 50,
Mm,
and I started reading books. Throughout 2023, I started reading books. One, I don't like reading, so I was like, I need to develop the habit. Let me read a book about habits, which was Atomic Habits, and then I started getting
yeah,
into real estate books.
great
And
one.
in one of the real estate books by Brandon Turner, um, it said just like go to meetups, listen to podcasts. And I was like, okay. So I just started Googling meetups and just showing up. Like, and I didn't know what I was doing in any of these places. Like, oh, like, what's your story? How many properties do you have? None. I don't have any. Like, how many do you have? And how did you get that many? You tell me about yourself. So as you start showing up to more and having more of these conversations, you start to, get more acquainted with the terminology and like what you should be looking for and getting more ideas. I kept reading. I kept trying to inform myself and talking to a gazillion realtors. And in my case, I was like, I don't want to commit to anyone, because I don't want to commit to the wrong person. So everyone that I talked to, I was like, look, I'm not going to commit to you, but if you're willing, to work with me and you bring me a property, I will make sure that I close that property with you.
Nice,
Um,
nice. That's a good approach. That's totally fair approach. I think. Even
yeah,
saying that as an agent, yeah, I get it.
that's good. And at one point I felt like I was being like unfaithful. I remember I walked into work and I told my boss that I was stressed about it, and I was like, I just feel so polygamous. Like I'm like acting. I mean, I'm interacting with all of these agents and they're all like working with me, but at least they all know. They all know that they're not the only one.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
you're the client. You're the customer. So I get that.
yeah, it was a little tough, on me emotionally, and I real through the process I realized that I'm very emotional, and that's not good for business, but I tried to like push through the emotions and focus on that instead. So I
Yeah.
ended up getting a home with one of the realtors that I liked the most, and I'm still working with her right now actually for
Cool.
my second property.
Cool.
um, but yeah, so we that I forgot your question, but
Well,
that's
that's
what
okay.
about
So
me.
what was the driving force to say I want to look for an investment and I want to do rent by room strategy? Like, how did you learn about it, and how did you decide to pursue a property with that in mind?
Our Rich Journey, they were big on house hacking.
Cool.
They did a mix. They did like a mix of things. It was the Burr strategy mixed with house hacking, and
Mhm.
they would buy and hold. But they would do like mother-in-law suites and stuff because they had kids.
Sure.
I was already living with people because I wanted to, so that just made the most sense. And then whenever I got into learning how to analyze deals, which I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but I knew enough to like kind of figure some stuff out. I realized that with the prices in Denver and the interest rates, that was how it was going to work for me. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. Um, So for me, it was just like instead of paying to live with roommates, I could get my roommates to pay me to live with me.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what did you have any fears going into that strategy because it was sort of an unknown, or was it
I'm so
mentally?
sorry. I it
Oh,
cut off. Could you repeat your question?
sure. Yeah. Did you have any fears going into the strategy as the owner and not just a roommate? Um, how are you handling that unknown ahead of you?
So that's the continuation of the story, I guess. We found a home that like it was an unconventional duplex,
Cool.
and so the basement had its own kitchen, its own restroom. It was a standalone apartment, and the seller um, she was already renting that space out. So she was like, "There's already a tenant. Like, here's the home. Keep the furniture because she had it as a midterm rental. So like everything was included whenever I bought the home for the basement, um, and all of 2023 was a study of how to buy a house. I close on it
When did you
in
close on it?
early January. I think January the 8th or
Of
12th.
2024, right?
2024 this year.
Yeah.
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 So I close on it and then I'm like kind of shocked because I'm like, "Oh, I prepared to buy the house. I did not prepare to have a house." So I was kind of
And your mortgage payment is coming up pretty soon, right?
yes, yes, and I don't plan on paying for it myself. Like I know that. So I was really scared. The home was in excellent shape. Like it had really good bones. It was very well maintained, but it was outdated. And I didn't want to live in an outdated home. I didn't want to attract people who were interested in an outdated home. So I was like, I need to remodel it. Well, I'm going to do it myself. 6 weeks into trying to paint a restroom,
Yes.
I realized that that was not gonna work. Um, so I was like, okay, I need to hire someone, and I got a few
Hmm.
quotes, and I ended up hiring someone. Thankfully, I was able to get a credit card with Chase Inc., and it was 12 months, no interest. Um,
Great.
so I
Yep.
figured I'll figure out how to pay for it later. I need to get this updated while I have no furniture, while I have no roommates. You know, this is the right time to do it. So, but I was like, well, what do I do? What do I do first? What is more important? What's gonna like bring me the most bang for my buck? How will I know if anyone even wants to live here at all? You know, I was so nervous about that. So I was like, okay, I need to hire people. So I went into like panic mode and I hired um, I think a little unnecessarily. The contractors, that was a necessity, but then I hired an interior designer because I have no eye for design. And I was trying to hire someone to get me tenants. So I didn't know what like to do and in regard to getting tenants. I had read Chris Lopez's book. I think it's like the ultimate house hacking guide in Denver specifically. So from there, I
Okay.
had some ideas, and I spoke to my realtor as well, who's an investor herself, and she sent me a few bigger pockets articles about like vetting. But I still didn't feel like I was up to the task. So I started
Sure.
looking for people to help me do it. But everyone that I spoke to, they didn't seem like they cared about me. I think they cared about like the business, like the income that they were going to get from it. I also felt like it was overpriced based on where I was. You know, I realized that it's only like they were all charging 100% of the first month's rent.
Mm,
So, I realized that that's not a lot in the long run, you know, if you're going to keep these and you have a low turnover. Um, but I just spent all of my money on that down payment. Like I don't have a backup savings. Then you're
yeah.
going to come and tell me that you're going to take all of my profits for the first month. I couldn't swallow that pill. And then you add to that that no one seemed to care that I'm going to live with these people. Like I don't just care that someone's here paying for rent. I care that I'm going to share my kitchen with them. They're going to like I'm picky with my dishes and my pots and pans. They're going to be like using them and like what if I don't like how they smell and they're sitting on my couch? You know, I was stressed about that. And so I was like, I'll take care of it myself. So
Yeah.
I got the downstairs unit rented because the tenant that was in there ended up leaving, and I had that on Furnished Finder. The seller, she actually helped me get that rented.
Cool.
Um,
Cool.
and then I was like, well, I don't even know if anyone wants to live here, right? So let me just put it up for rent with the old pictures, the outdated everything. And I don't want to deal with people right now, so I'm going to make it really expensive. So like just to see if I get any views, any clicks, if anyone messages me. Well, a lot more people than I expected were messaging me with the old pictures,
Yeah.
with the expensive prices. And I was like,
Was this
is
on
this?
Zillow?
No, it was actually on Facebook groups.
Facebook groups. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Facebook
Nice.
groups. And I put it in the description. I was like, these are old pictures, under renovation right now. Um, and so I wasn't getting a lot of traffic, but I was getting a lot more than I expected.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, if they're willing to pay for this, well, then, I need to see this through. So I got my first tenant. He actually moved in 3 days before the renovation was complete. So whenever he moved in, there was no running water.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, "Hey, like I'll discount you for the first week. I'm so sorry." I did let him know in it like ahead of time. He's like, "It's fine. I'll get a hotel." I wasn't even staying there because it was like so full of dust and everything.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, he sends me a picture and he's like, "Did you just get the sink upgraded or something?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he like it's the sink is like on the ground. When I
Oh.
left, it was like connected to the to the countertop, and then it was on the ground. And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I thought you were supposed to be in a hotel." He's like, "It's just a few days. Like I could be without water. It's fine." And I was like, "Okay." Um,
Wow.
so I got that fixed. Everything is fine now.
Yeah.
And we're actually really great friends now.
Cool.
So I
Cool.
got to talk on the phone with him, kind of feel him out. He's this military guy. And he's from Texas and he's moving to Denver. And I was like, I'm from Texas. I moved to Denver. We're in the same age range, like whatever. Um, I think within the first month of him living there, I got my other roommate who's older. He has a cat and I'm allergic to cats. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think this is gonna work. And he was like, well, I'll have the cat inside, like indoors. You won't have to deal with it at all. And I was like, I don't know. Okay, well, let's try it for a month. If I have a bad
Yeah.
allergic reaction, I'm sorry, I can't commit. But when I met him and when I talked to him, he's an older man. He's older guy, really. I don't feel like he's a man. Um, he's in his 40s. Like, I say like older man, and I'm imagining like a 60-year-old with like grandchildren. He's an older guy in his 40s. And
I'm
he
in
was
my
just
40s. Careful,
okay.
Carolina. Just kidding. Just
he
kidding.
was he was super respectful. Like he was
Nice.
like, yeah, like whatever you need, and just I had a good feeling about him. On
Cool.
paper, he was a little questionable. And he was like, by the way, I just wanted to let you know, like I have a felony, but it's from, this happened many, many years ago. This is what happened. This is my reasoning. I completely understand if you don't like agree with it. And I was like, I don't know. I thought about it, and since he felt nice when I met him, I figured just low commitment of 1 month would do. And once he moved in, like we've just meshed so well. I strive to make it a community environment.
Cool.
Before anyone has moved in, I've let them know like this is not just a house, this is a home. We all live here. We are going to coexist. Like you have your space and do your thing, but I like to share food, so let's eat together. And so we often, when I'm in town, we often have like family meals, and we'll all be in the kitchen cooking together, and then we all clean together, and it's so nice. And I think it's because I got the chance to talk to the person. So and on their side, you're not renting a house, you're renting a home. And on my side, I don't have a tenant, I have a person, who's
Sure.
looking for a place to rent.
Yeah.
And I've found that just creates a really nice community atmosphere, and it lets everyone know that we're like on the same page. And I don't do long-term leases to start.
I was
You
gonna
know,
ask you. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Can I ask you a couple like brass tacks questions? I might just pepper them for you.
yeah,
So tell us about the leases. Do you start with month to month?
no.
Okay.
Because I don't want to look for someone every month.
Okay.
So I find that the low commitment for me is a 3-month lease.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
and so what I let them know is like, this is a 3 month lease for both of us. Like, you're gonna figure out if you like to live with me, and I'm gonna like all the rest of us, whoever's already in the home, we're gonna decide if we like to live with you. And that way you're like stable for 3 months. I have stable income for 3 months. But if this isn't feeling right, like, it gives you, you're not locked in.
The other question I had, that's great, and I think that's smart. The other question I had is in your leases, do you add like community guidelines? I hate to say them like call them like rules, but like guidelines that anybody living in this community has to abide by these guidelines, and it's written in the lease, so you're signing your name to it.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a section called house rules.
Love it.
Um, and I put what was comfortable for me. So a lot
Can
what
you
one of
can you tell us like a couple of those house
Yeah,
rules?
well, one of the guys that works with Chris, I want to remember his name, with Chris Lopez. He's the house hacking expert on his team, Jeff White. In his chapter on Chris's book, he mentions like setting aside cabinet space for each room so that there's no conflict there, and refrigerator space so there's no conflict, and that makes sense. But I felt like that would create a very individualistic community living, or like individualistic kind of
Yeah,
situation, and
I
that's
got
not
you.
what I wanted a community. So when I spoke to them, I was like, I don't have cabinet space assigned, I don't have refrigerator space assigned, but if it becomes a problem, I will assign it. And that was something that I did. So for me, my house rules are just like no pets like in the common area, well, no cats. That, like, for in the case of my second roommate, if you get some dishes dirty, just make sure you wash them.
Hmm.
Um, like, I don't want to abide by quiet hours, so I don't have quiet hours. One of my clients does. Also, how long of a notice they have to give me for renewal. Um, what else? Like, that's another place where you could include like, this is your laundry day. You can use the washer and dryer on X days. For the laundry, I do have the rule of, if there's, because I don't have laundry days assigned, if there is someone else's laundry in the washer, do not put it in the dryer. Just like put it in like a designated spot for wet clothes, because I
Nice.
don't. There's some clothes that I don't want to be
Of
put in the
course.
dryer.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, just trying to evade conflict that way. But we also have a house chat, and what else? One of my clients, he didn't want any guests without approval. So if they're going to have any overnight guests, they have to ask for approval. Another one of my clients has like a no guest policy at all. So there's that too.
Nice. You say a no guest policy. You aren't allowing them to have a guest,
The land,
or
yeah. So I'm guest friendly. Like, bring your guests. Let's all be
oh,
friends.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But one of my clients, she doesn't want her tenants to have any guests over, because it's her house and it's not a separate space. She has a
yeah.
family, so she just doesn't want any strangers around.
Awesome. Yeah. So what you're alluding to is the endeavor, the business that you're setting up to have clients, and I do want to talk about that in a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. We'll give the context. Um, are your rooms furnished or unfurnished?
The way I went about that was posting them as is, and if someone's willing to pay me more to have it furnished, I will furnish it.
Cool.
But no, as I said, I listed them. I didn't say this part, but when I said expensive, I was listing them as furnished midterm rental priced rooms.
Nice. Okay.
And my roommates had their own furniture and they wanted to pay these prices. So
Well, and that
who might have stopped them?
those are good data points for you in the future when your roommates turn over. Like
Mhm.
if people were willing to pay this, I'll up my prices next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've learned a
And,
lot
and
now that I'm working with other people too. I'm just like, maybe I'm too cheap, but it felt expensive when I started.
yeah, and the higher you get, the smaller your pool is.
Mhm.
However, that might be a natural weeding out of maybe tenants that don't fit, right? into that
Yeah.
community. And
Yeah.
I've found that in my investing, sometimes erring on the side, you want to have it filled. So there's a sweet spot where your rent is just too much and you're just not going to get anybody. But then also, like, it just, if it's high and you have a high quality product that
Hmm.
some people are willing to pay for,
Hmm.
then pricing it a little bit higher can be a really effective strategy. So that's what I've
Yeah,
found too.
I feel like I don't know if I'm right on this, and it's just like a perception. I feel like because I'm offering a home that I want to live in, that I would be willing to pay for, the tenants that I'm getting are not only getting a house, like they're getting people that they want
Yeah.
to live with.
Yeah.
Um, and that just you're less likely to leave that.
How do you how do you how do you sell that or pitch that to prospective tenants? Because it's right. You're not just offering a room. You're offering a place in Carolina's safe space community, or however you want to.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the sound
So
of that.
it's taking that offering to the next level in our real estate world, where I have a lot of apartments. I'm offering you a 1 bedroom apartment, right, at this price. It's pretty standard. But we want to be good landlords, so we offer other things. But this is very dialed into a little bit more meta space, where you are saying, I'm not only providing a room, I'm providing a safe environment for you to be in. But that also comes with a higher price,
Mhm.
some guidelines, and you to be a good person, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, and I find that, or so far, I have found that people who feel undeserving weed themselves out. And I
interesting,
have found that
interesting.
through the way that I sell that, which is not exactly like something that I, verbally sell, is by talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
When when I'm when I get leads, I pick up the phone and I call them and I want to know about them. Like, tell me about yourself. Like, who are you? Where are you moving from? Like, do you like your current roommates? What's your situation? And just, having a conversation and relating to them. Like, oh, I remember being 20 or the time that my car broke, or whatever their story is in that point in time. And that is how they get to hear who they're living with. And I have found some people who come with like really long stories. I remember seeing something uh, in someone's story whenever we had some issue with one of the presidents in Mexico. And they gave like an explanation video, and it was captioned, "The longer the explanation, the bigger the lie." And I've had some people come with some long
Oh
stories,
yeah.
and I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
like, I'm so sorry if that's true, but I don't believe you. And they just don't call you back. Like, you're
Yeah.
kind to them, you talk to them, and they themselves just, I don't know, I just feel like they don't want
Yeah.
to live with you because like they're like, oh man, this is not a good person to scam or something. But
Well, it's yeah, and you're living in such close quarters with two, three, four other people, where it's like you're gonna get exposed
mhm,
for whatever you might be hiding.
yeah,
Whether it's personality or whatever, right? Like that community is gonna tap into that pretty quickly. So they probably know that.
yeah, and the right people are attracted to it.
Yeah.
The right people are like, oh, I want to live with you, or I like your room, I like your vibe, like this is a place where I want to live. So um so far, in both me and, we haven't gotten into it, but like with my clients, whenever they're there for their house showings, they get to do the same thing. They get to talk to them and feel them out, and they get to, like, just see if they have an initial good mesh. um so far it's been successful.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get a little philosophical here. Um, I've run Airbnbs for a while, and before Airbnb was like a thing, it was the couch surfing movement, right? So it was like, I need to go to a city and I need to find a cheap place to stay, and I'm gonna rent a room for a night at a nice couple's cottage or even in their house, and I'm going to have food with them and commune with them, and then it fast forward, we get to a point where people are traveling and they really just want their own space. Some, of course, some people still rent by the room on an Airbnb short stay, but I feel like I feel like what you're trying to do is kind of transcending that individuality for the people that want this, of course, but
Mhm.
trying to transcend that individuality into more of a communal, life giving, life breathing community. Is that fair to say? What are your thoughts on that? Because I hear it and I feel a lot of that as you're talking.
Yeah. Well, when you're renting your own space, you want to have that too. So when I talk to them, I'm like, the home, we are a home, but your room, like, you can be as quiet and as to yourself as you want to be, but if you
Mhm.
don't want that, like, I'm here. Come talk to me. Let's watch movies together. Let's hang out. Um
Cool.
and so it's being respectful of other people's spaces, wishes and desires, right? So that I think that's what it is. Because when I was living with roommates in my previous apartment, um, that's kind of just like the nature of it. And I also found me as a person, every time I've only lived with roommates 3 times, twice in college and once in Denver.
Okay.
Um, every home that I went to, no one spoke to each other until I got there. And then we all would hang out and we would all be friends. So
Got it.
it tells you that the culture is individualistic, but the desire is for community.
Sure. Sure. Oh, and it also tells you that's probably one of your superpowers, right? It's probably one of those things, the skills that you have to bring people together and to draw people out and connect with each other. And that's a great skill to have.
I like it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, let's transition. So you've learned so much doing this for yourself, which I love. Now you want to take that knowledge that you've learned and provide that as a service to other people. So tell us a little bit about what you're embarking upon and what experiences you've had in serving others in this way. And yeah, give us a sense of what you're doing now.
Yeah, so in doing it and it, like, kind of being forced to do it because I couldn't find someone that I could hire, um I realized that I was having a lot of fun. Like, even with everyone who didn't stay with me, or, like, who chose it to go a different way, I liked having all of those conversations. I liked talking to all of these people and hearing their story. And I was like, this is nice. This is fun. I want to do more of it. But I'm also a person that was craving freedom and trying to get out of my job because I was just tired. So I was like, I need to make sure that I can do this remote. And my mom had some rooms in her house. So I convinced her, I was like, let me put your rooms up for rent, and get you some tenants and get you some passive income. Like, this is how it's working for me. I'm living rent free at the moment. Like, please let me help you.
And
So
she was in Texas, correct?
in Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to Houston because she wasn't going to do anything for herself. So I went to Houston. I got the room set up. I got a real estate photographer to come by, and then I left. And I put everything up for rent, and I got her rooms filled. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And
Nice.
the way that, like, a service that I don't offer is to do showings because, like, I expect to be remote. But if you're doing rent by the room, then you want to meet the people that are going to be living in your home. So I realized that the homeowner can do the showings and talk to the people and make sure that they're comfortable. And it's comfort on both sides, because at the end of the day, this is a people business, right? I don't just need to be comfortable as your landlord. I need you to be comfortable as my tenant. So um if both parties are in agreement and moving forward, then, like, that's whenever the next step comes in. So I did it remote and I was like, okay, I can do this. So I figured I should start marketing myself, and I'm not good at doing that online. Like I'm just not a visual arts kind of person, but I
Not
can talk.
yet. It's coming.
Not yet. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I can talk to people. That's what I know how to do.
Yeah.
So pick up the phone, talk to people. The few house hackers that I knew, I gave them a call and let them know that that's what I was doing. And my realtor, who works with investors, I called her and I let her know that I was doing that. And in late July, she referred me to someone she closed a house with, and that was my first experience working with someone outside of my mom, and it was great. Like we got all of his rooms rented within a month, like two rooms within a no one room within a week, two rooms within 2 weeks, and the fourth room took, like, we found the lead on the third week, but we got everything signed by the fourth week, and he's cash flowing. And that's like another piece of it too. Like, yeah, there is standard pricing of like what you're gonna see, but if you have time, that's a conversation that I have with every one of my leads. If you're not in a hurry and you have time, let's be pricey. Let's be selective, and let's wait it out. If you're in a hurry, we'll come up with a different strategy, but having time, that's one of your biggest assets.
Yeah. Waiting,
And
waiting for the right fit.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and someone who's willing to pay, cuz with the market as it was or as it has been, you need to be pricey if you're going to live in the home and cash flow.
Mm. That's
So
great advice.
yeah,
Yes.
everyone that I've worked with, I'm like, if you have time, this is my goal, is to get you as much money in your pocket per month.
Hmm.
It could possibly mean you lose a little bit in the beginning, but at least you're setting the standard. Thankfully, so far it hasn't taken that long, but this is my first time going into the slow season, so I don't know how that's going to work now.
Sure. Sure.
Um, I haven't had as many leads as I am used to having initially, so
Do you
I'll
mean,
figure it
just to clarify, leads for clients who want to work with you to do
out. No,
the
leads for my clients, leads for
leads
tenants.
for your clients? So tenant leads. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's a lot of slowness right now. I'm seeing that in my business too. So it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
Once the new year hits, I'm sure
it'll
there will
pick
be
right
a
back up.
there will be a fire hose. Yeah. So,
Okay.
what is your approach then? Because I know you're you're much more than a tenant placement service. What are you bringing to the table for your clients and the tenants,
So sorry.
that
It
separates?
dropped. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What is your approach? Much more than a tenant placement service, and then it cut off.
Oh yeah. So what is, and for everyone listening, Carolina is in Mexico. I don't know if we said that. So service is a little spotty, but we're making it through it. What's your approach? What's your unique approach to this that makes you more than just a tenant placement service?
Um, I haven't packaged that into a
That's okay.
response yet, but I would say it's a two-part approach, or a two-part system. I like to counsel my clients, um, because been there just a few months ago. I was just there.
Mm-hmm.
How much should you charge for your deposit? Like, seeing it in different ways. What are you going to do with that money? Like, where are you going to put it? Is it going to be in a high yield savings? Um, and just, like little tips and tricks of things that I've learned along the way, and letting them know on what my strategy and my house is. And also letting them know that that doesn't have to be the way you run your house. You can be more strict. You can be more laid back. It's your house. Um, and my interest is in your cash flow, your comfort, and the like reduced turnover. Like that, I'm going to do everything in my power to give you those things. And we're going to be working together, right? So if you want to be hands off, I won't talk to you until I have someone who's like ready to go see the house. But if you want to be involved, I'll let you know which leads I have, what I'm hearing about them, um, and just giving you my 2 cents on if this is someone you should move forward with or not. Um,
Nice.
that's what I think it is. And then, as well as existing house hackers, who are you and who do you live with? And what kind of people do you think you would want to live with? So adding that like personal factor into this tenant, um, is what makes me different, I think, from the people that I've from the property managers that I've talked to.
Oh, lost you there just a little bit, but that's okay. That sounds amazing. Like I think that's a really good approach, and it's very niche because there are definitely nuances in trying to rent out your rooms, right? If you're a landlord or an owner, there's just naturally nuances to this space, and the fact that you've done it for your mother, and now you're doing it for clients, just lends to a lot of credibility and ability to help people in this way. So I think that's awesome. So I'm excited to see where you take this business. So
Yeah, me too. I'm quickly realizing that running it as a one man show is not going to be enough for scale. But I did talk to a business coach, and he's letting me know how I can, expand on the capacity. So I'm excited to see what this becomes.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I have recently discovered that my passion is creating community. I did not know that. Like I've been acting that way, but I didn't know that that's what it was.
cool.
That's what fills me. So if I can do anything to enable a community, then I'm excited to be a part of it.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I can feel the passion in your voice. So that's if you're going to do anything well, you got to be passionate about it, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
nice. So, how about your own personal portfolio? What are you looking? You mentioned as we were talking here that you might be looking for your next property. Is that right?
It cut off
Hopefully.
again. My own personal portfolio. What?
Oh, what's next for you in your own personal portfolio? You have the property you're in now, or part time in, I guess now. What's next on your own investing side?
Yeah. So I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast or like right before. I recently quit my job, so I do not have an income at the moment. But I've been connecting with master.
Congratulations, and I'm knowing how that is. I'm scared for you because
Thank you.
I've done that before, and it's scary.
I'm excited. I feel like it'll
Yeah.
go well, and then if it doesn't, I'll
Yes.
just get another job. But until it fails, I will
Perfect.
continue to try. Um,
Yeah.
with that said, I've also recently joined a mastermind, as I had mentioned to you earlier, and um, lots of real estate investors in there, and just investors across the, I mean, entrepreneurs across the board, not just real estate, but lots of real estate investors there. So, in conversations that I've had, one of the conversations that I had. Um, this guy, he teamed up with his friend who was in the military to get their first multifamily property. And as soon as he told me this, I was like, I have a friend in the military who happens to
Nice.
be my roommate, actually.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I was talking to the one that I had met in the mastermind community. His name is Doug. I was talking to Doug, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, tell me how you got started." Like, because I see where he's at now, and I'm just like, "Whoa!" Like, mind blown. But how did you get started? And that's when he told me that. I hung up with Doug. I called my roommate. I was like, "Do you want to buy a house with me?" And he's like, yeah." And I was like, "Okay, that's all I need to know. I'll take care of the
I
rest."
love
So
it.
got us in touch with the lender. I got like back in touch with the realtor, and I'm letting him know like what strategy we should go about. And I also let him know, I was like, you don't need me. Like, all I'm doing is like taking advantage of your loan. So like, you don't need me, but if you want to work with me, I'll take care of everything. I just need you to sign a piece of paper. Um, so that's what we're doing. We're looking for a home right now that's going to cash
Cool.
flow, and
Would
yeah,
you are you gonna are you looking for something to do rent by room or a hybrid of this unit is can be rented out and maybe a couple rooms over here or whatever? You're kind of open to how it actually looks, probably.
I I like rent by the room a lot, and I've met a lot of people who are in the short-term rental space. So, what I think I need so that I can experiment both with what I know and what I want to try is like a separate, like at least a duplex, maybe like an unconventional duplex like I have in my home right now. But I want to focus on making it in a more attractive location. Right now, I'm in Aurora for anyone who's in Denver. That's like closer to the airport, further east, whereas like the mountains are on the west side. So the attractive spots for tourists are more on the west. So I would want to pick a place over there so that I can try the short term rental strategy. And hopefully also find a property that I can force equity on.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah,
so
you've been through one renovation project already, so you can
right, but
you can do it again.
I can. But I took baby steps, right? Like my home was already functional. Like I could
Sure.
just get people to rent it out. I just didn't like it as it was, so I did like aesthetic renovations. Um, I didn't put up any walls, like I don't know, that sounds scary to me, but that's also an important part of being surrounded by the right people. Whenever I was talking to one of the people from the mastermind about saying that like I haven't graduated into doing like a full gut, because that was like the conversation that we were having. He said like you don't need to graduate into that. Like you learn as you go. And like don't be scared to make big moves. And that itself is kind of like a scary thing to hear, like oh my gosh, but it's also like motivating and inspiring, like okay, I can do this, like. And I think if I did go that route and get that kind of a home where I would have to, I don't think I'd do a full gut right now. I don't have like the headspace for it. But a bigger project that I feel like is out of my league, um I'll find myself again in that situation that I was in January, where like, okay, I've prepared to buy a home. Oh shit, I'm not ready to have a home. So maybe, I prepared to buy, a property that's not in great shape. I don't know what to do now. And then it like just forces you to get going faster.
It's all good. Yeah, I just investing in real estate investing is just a bunch of problem solving, and you're always solving problems, trying to figure out how to do things different ways, and you've already learned so much in doing all that problem solving.
Hmm.
This next venture, your business of the service business that you're doing, and then also the next property, whatever that looks like. I mean, you're just going to solve the problems, and you got it in you to do it. You've already done it, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of confidence to be had. And you can probably speak to this now, that the first, well, maybe after the second, I'll talk to you, but after the first, well, the hardest part is to get your first property, right?
Hmm.
Like so many unknowns that you talked about. Now you're getting your second, a lot more now. So your
Yeah.
second should be easy compared to that, should be.
Yeah.
But you'll face different challenges, and as real estate investors, we just solve those problems and keep going, and
That,
sometimes
that's a
make some mistakes, but you'll never make those mistakes again if you can help it.
that's a good way to put it. That it's just constant problems. Well, not constant, but it's just an array of problem solving, and I like solving problems.
Yeah.
So that definitely gives me some serenity and taking on bigger projects. I do want to mention something. I don't know who your listeners are, but the hardest part is getting the first property, but it is not impossible, and it is so much more feasible than people think. And I like
Yeah.
to like preach that from the mountaintops. You don't need a lot of money to get started. In my case, I got my first house in Denver. I got a $500,000 asset with less than $20,000. Like you can do it. And it is just so much more attainable than people think. You just have to be, willing to step out of your comfort zone and give something a try and be comfortable with failing. Like if for some reason I have terrible tenants and I can't pay my property because I'm young and like just given my situation and what I'm willing to lose where I'm at, everyone's different. I'll just go back to renting. I'll lose an asset and I'll go back to renting. But based on how things are going, I don't expect that to happen, and I only expect to grow. So just like please, if you're thinking about buying a house, just go buy one.
That's great. That's great. Um, yeah, my wife and I, our first property was a house hack, and we separated to a bi-level house and did Airbnb down below us while we had a 6 month old and a 3 year old. And we had to apologize to our nightly guests that our 6 month old was crying during the night. And it was all these sacrifices we had to make, but we would never regret those couple of years of having to, to learn and to do all of that kind of stuff. So it's just such a learning process.
Hmm.
And I like that you're encouraging people that you can do it. Like you can do it. It's hard. It's not easy, but you can do it,
I feel like
even
people
in
keep
an expensive place like Denver.
exactly, but I also feel like people say that it's not easy, but I just think that the everyday person deals with things that are a lot harder than
Good
buying
point.
your first house. Like, I don't know, when I was in my early 20s, one of my friends, he asked me to co-sign for a Lexus. He had like a $700 payment, not including insurance, and I feel like that was hard. This is doing nothing for you. Um I don't know. I don't know. I just think that the everyday person does things that are a lot harder than buying your first house.
Yes, good, good, and yeah, it's about looking to the future and building wealth over time, and it's the long game, and it's fun. It's fun. I think you and I can both attest to being a real estate investor. However, we choose to whatever path we choose to go down in the world of investing, it's fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Well, good. Well, thank you for your time today, Carolina. You shared a lot of great information for us. Where can people find you if they want to follow you? Whatever. Do you have Instagram handles to share, or what do you think?
Yes. Yes, the best way to get in touch with me is on Instagram through DMs. It's at pivot, PIVOT, period, ability, ABILITY. Yeah. And that's also my handle on TikTok. But
Nice.
Instagram is my main social media platform where I'm most active.
Okay. Do you have a name for your service business, helping
Yep.
helping other landlords?
Scout Investments.
Cool. Okay.
Scout because I'm looking to get you a good person, and I figured whenever I grow this and scale it, I will not only be doing this service. So I figured to name it Scout Investments. It is not registered, so
Okay.
just in case this is not available, it might not stay. But for now, it's Scout.
Okay. Go get it registered. It's super easy.
Okay, I'll look
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so follow Carolina on her Instagram, and I'm sure if anybody has a need, are you looking to scale out of state, like figure that out, or are you
Yeah,
staying in
no,
in
I'm
Denver right
currently
now with your service
marketing
business?
myself in U.S. land. So I'm work. So far, I've worked with people in Texas and people in
Okay.
Colorado.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, and you'll figure out the rest, right?
Yeah, when I get someone in Florida, I'll figure out Florida and so on. But yeah, sticking to all of the
I
United
love it.
States, um, and just trying to get some people in some houses.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I hope to hear more from you in the future, and I hope everybody else does too. So, um,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
for being
Yeah,
on.
looking forward to see you at the next meetup.
Awesome. We'll see you soon.
All right, bye bye.